All right, so I'm gonna tie in a couple of things I was talking about from my previous video on whether, self-development is a bad idea or a good idea. If you haven't watched that video, I definitely recommend it. As the video I did before this one. I'll tie it into the description so that it's easier for you to click on, because I basically speak on all the points that I'm referring to, whether self-development is a bad idea or a good idea. And I'm going to basically tie in other things in this video to get you to understand my point of view. Now, you have to understand this one thing. Depending on what you're doing every day, you'll have certain people in your reality. Let's say, for example, right now, I have an understanding where I've basically dug into all the philosophies, right? When we talk about non-duality, spirituality, when we talk about Christianity, I grew up a Catholic and whatnot. See, there's everybody in this world that you're going to run into, and you're going to have your idea of whatever it is you polarize to. See, in my field, I work in the fitness and health industry. So I'm going to be running into people who have health issues, right? Or they want to improve on their health. And this is a form of self-development to some extent. What do you do when you have this philosophy of your character doesn't matter, nothing matters? See, here's the thing, though. We're in a realm where whatever you specialize in, you can help somebody with the level they're in on baby steps, right? Whatever I speak on online, I will always recommend that you check yourself first. What level are you on, okay? And it's not to say that one level is better than the other, okay? Because it's like a child. A child is not in any worse a position than an adult, because an adult knows more than the child. In actuality, the child has more of a knowing. They just can't express it. And I've made many videos on this as far as what's in the child that cannot be expressed in human form because the body is not mature enough to express it. But the child has a knowing that's much more intelligent than the adult. And the adult thinks they know more. So they try to indoctrinate the child into their philosophies or things that they think they know, but they really don't know shit. You get what I'm saying? Which is why kind of observe. I already made the example in my previous video as far as to how I observe my child. And so funny enough that when I observe it very, very closely, I had my child under a certain mind state. Okay. And it's funny how, depending on the programs that I'm on now, right, where my philosophies changed along the way to some extent, my child is showing me something about me where I was at before. And it's not about to demonize where I was before or where I am now. It's always being grateful for where you're at now, because there's good in everything, but you can find the good or the bad in anything. And none of the parties will be wrong or right, because whatever you see that's right in your situation, you're right. There is something good in that, but there's always going to be something good or favorable for you. If you want to say bad or good doesn't exist, but you can always find something bad. And the person who finds something bad, it's the way it is too. They're absolutely right. There is something bad. But from that bad, you can actually observe the bad. And because you observe the bad, you can make it better, or you can stay in there because you're unaware of the fact that you can make it better. Okay? But there's people who are in different categories. People who try to, they're living their life believing in Jesus. They need to be there. Some people need Jesus. Some people don't need to be converted from, where they're at to your philosophy. See, there's the whole thing. What am I going to do if somebody tells me, hey, man, I've got diabetes. The doctor has given me these medications. What do you think I can do? What am I going to answer them? I can answer them based on the knowledge I know now from how the body works. I can give them the information, but with love, on understanding the chemistry of the body. Right? Not understanding the chemistry of how medicine works to treat symptoms and not the root cause, is understanding the body in a way where you're able to scan the body and have an understanding of the chemistry to balance out. See, because people say, oh, I want to be healthy. But it's like your body in a healthy state is in homeostasis, right? Homeostasis is balance, is neutral. It's in the middle. It's not alkaline or it's not acid. You know what I'm saying? Healthy is a mind state as well. And you attract health as well. You can attract health, or you can attract unhealthy situations for yourself. And it could be in the form of physical health, or it could be in the form of unhealthy relationships, unhealthy environments. You can attract all that to you based on where you're at mentally, right? So if somebody's asking me for advice, what am I going to tell them? Oh, hey, it doesn't matter. Your body doesn't matter. You there's no self to develop, because you don't exist. There is no self to develop. So don't worry about your health. Just, stay with your diabetes and die. No, I mean, you can't answer that. You can't answer that person like that. If a child asks you questions, which they ask you a million questions a day, what are you going to say? Oh, it doesn't matter because, there is no self to worry about, because you don't have to know any of that. It's like, it doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying? Like, you see, this is the whole thing. I get the philosophy behind non-duality, but I'm also observing a lot of people who are in that wave because they're running from something. They're running away from something, right? And it's not to demonize any philosophy or anything like that. Because here's the thing, though. For example, you can have a doctor who's an iridologist, right? Like Dr. Robert Morse. You see, he observes a lot of unhealthy people because they come to him, but they come to him and tell him what the doctors have done, what they have eaten, the things that they're doing wrong, right? And I noticed that he gets worked up, that the doctors are out of their mind, and I get it. They are out of their mind but the only reason they're out of their mind is because that's how they were taught in medical school like that. You get what I'm saying? That's how they were taught. And I had a debate with a doctor at one point, and it wasn't an unfriendly debate. It was just a debate where, we had a debate on the topic of B12. You get what I'm saying? But he looked at me really small only because he's a doctor with a degree and I'm not. You know what I'm saying? But then I'm looking at him and literally laughing at him because he thinks he's smarter and he has a degree and he's doing things as backwards. And he's never correcting the actual issue. You get what I'm saying? But a guy like Dr. Robert Morse, because of the field he's in, he's going to have a lot of unhealthy people. But he demonizes the fact that they're in an unhealthy state because of doctors or because of the, the world or the industry, or how the Food and Drug Administration manage things and how they give people poisons and whatnot. You get what I'm saying? But what happens if those things didn't exist? You'd be out of business, right? So in a sense, you could kind of look at it as a dog-eat-dog world, but everybody is needed in order for you to stay in business. Because if they weren't there, you would have no business. You get what I'm saying? Like, the Catholic Church or Christianity or all that are in business because of the idea of a evil on the world. But if there was no evil in the world, let's say there was no evil in the world, would the Catholic Church or Christianity be in business? No. Right? That's why it's important to just mind your business, and then you can know what you're going to play with in your realm. But when you play in your realm, notice why you're attracting certain people into your life. Why do you attract certain things in the algorithm when you're online? You get what I'm saying? Why do you attract certain people when you're just out in your surroundings? Because the same way like Dr. Robert Morse is going to experience a lot of the unhealthy people, is because he's in that field, in that industry, but he's making a lot of money from it. You get what I'm saying? So in a sense, it's more or less, you can still find the good, you be grateful, but then there's the evil in the world. But then the whole thing is that when we start to talk, and I love Dr. Robert Morse, all right? So I know there's somebody who says that they wanted me to do a challenge, or let's say just basically covering a lot. I'm not doing that because I roll with Dr. Robert Morse. That's the whole thing. I'm just making an example. You get what I'm saying? This is just an example as to the topic of, sometimes we look at the bad in things, but there's the good in it. And it's this world is ran on, that's why they say don't take it personal. It's just business. But you can look at it overall, that America is a corporation. You're in a business. You're in a company. And usually in a company, they got presidents, they got CEOs in a business, right? If you look at the country is ran under a president. That's the president of the company, of the United States, right? You could observe the works of Jordan Maxwell. He'll start to talk about, the court systems, how America's a corporation and all that. It's all fine and dandy, man. But just, how are you managing yourself in this business that you're in? You can become sovereign, and that would involve you kind of being a entrepreneur, let's say. If you're an entrepreneur, you kind of, you escape the way that the position where you're kind of in a slave-like state in the business, but you're more managing yourself, but you're still part of the system because you still got to pay taxes, you still got to do all that fly shit, and you still got to manage yourself in society, right? So in other words, whatever you're doing it, but depending on where you're at is how you do it. You can't just be an entrepreneur if you don't become mentally an entrepreneur first. Like not everybody can be an entrepreneur. Some people just have to work. They have to go and do 9 to 5s because they're just not built that way to do entrepreneurship. You get what I'm saying? They don't have the discipline, or they don't have they can't swim in those chaotic waters because it's a little more chaotic. See, when you're working a 9 to 5, it's more controlled. You know what I'm saying? It's a little more controlled. It's kind of like when you go work out. You work out in a hammer strength machines. They're more isolated. You're not involving the stabilizer muscles. You're more or less like just you're in a stable, controlled position. But when you do compound movements, right? You could do deadlifts, squats. They're not controlled movements. They're more managed by your posture and whatnot, but you're more prone to getting hurt in those positions than you are when you're just doing isolation machines that are basically controlling your stability on the movement, your range of motion, right? So that's why it's, there is no bad and good about none of this shit. But don't forget, self-development is not just in the area of money. It's in the area of even the topics that you're in, spirituality, fucking non-duality, right? I mean, think about it. When I listen. I'm not against non-duality. I'm gonna make that disclaimer now. I'm not against spirituality. I'm not against Christianity. I actually had a gentleman come here who was from the church, and over here in the South, there's a lot of them. They go and knock on your door. They try to, their job is to convert people. You know what I'm saying, into Christianity, or convert them to the church, or convert them to, to turn to Jesus. You get what I'm saying? I gave them my time, but the first thing they came up with to me is asking me, hey, I have a question for you. Do you know where you go when you die? And I'm like, do you know where you go when you die? And the person said, yes, I do know where you go. I said, so can you tell me where you go when you die? And he goes, you go to heaven, but you have to be saved first. And then, I wanted to hear him. I was like, okay, have you died yet? Have you been there? Yes, I've been there. I've spoke to Jesus. Now, somebody would look at him and say, well, this guy is either delusional or crazy because he said he spoke to Jesus, right? He's very, very into his faith, but he believed in all the words he was telling me, right? And I'm listening to him. And honestly, I believed him. You get what I'm saying? Because who am I? Listen, everything exists. Jesus exists because that idea was bought by so many people. And the whole thing is, it goes as far as to the point that you die, you may even actually see Jesus and the way they depicted him here for you, right? But in that first layer, you're going to see him that way. Because when it goes deeper into the layers, the programming of what you think things look like are not going to appear to be that way. And what doesn't appear to look human, or like the beauty things that you see here, look kind of scary to you, right? How do you know you don't look like a fucking totally different thing than you look like here? Right? But you're going to see Jesus. You may see relatives. You may see a bunch of different things. But those are all things that you've been programmed here to think that that's how they look like. And you believe it so much that that's what you'll actually see. My grandma, before she died, I'm watching her. And I was watching her right before she died. She was actually talking to Jesus. Like but she wasn't awake. I'm trying to wake her up. Grandma, she wasn't waking up, but she was talking to Jesus and telling Jesus to take care of us and blah, blah, blah. But she was she was in another fucking world. Like, she was zoned out. But I kept trying to wake her up because I got scared. I was a child and I saw her talking to herself and it was dark. But she wasn't budging. Like, she did not move. She was literally talking to Jesus and nothing around her existed. So it really, analyze yourself. Check yourself first. Check yourself first. Know where you're at, right? What do you believe in and why do you believe in it? There's not one way to fix people. You get what I'm saying? There's many different ways to help and fix people. That's the whole thing. If you want to do it from a genuine heart space, and it's not to say, if the person believes in Jesus, then, but actually think about this though. If they have a problem and their belief is in Jesus, then maybe they need that in order for them to get rid of whatever it is that's paralyzing them here in this reality. And then once they can get rid of those things that are paralyzing them here in this reality, maybe now they have more of a clearer mind to actually see if Jesus is really what they were actually relying on and actually did help them, or was it themselves that actually got them there, and they think it was a image of Jesus that was put into their mind to begin with. But they're not able to see that because of all the fucking dirty filters that are there to begin with, right? So, I mean, ketogenic diet. I'm very against the ketogenic diet. But there's so many studies online that will tell you how keto works, right? But the whole thing is, the reason people lose so much weight initially is because it dehydrates your body. You get rid of a lot of water weight, right? And then it kind of goes stagnant. And then you start to feel the inflammation. Or, don't forget that when you eat animal meats, there's a stimulant, right? There's a sort of stimulant that happens. So if you have, let's say, if you're tired and you got little aches here and there, and you take a pre-workout and go to the gym, those little aches and pains that were in your mind go away. Not only that, but you'll have such a fucking powerful charge of energy that all that kind of goes to the back burner, and boom, you get through your workout initially, boom, bulldoze right through it. But because that pre-workout gave you a boost, right? But there's always some type of long-term negative effects to it. But there was a positive effect, is that it got you up off of your ass to go to the gym and burn some fat, right? So the ketogenic diet, if you perceive it to be where, wow, I lost so much weight on the ketogenic diet, great. Let's get to something else now, right? It's not to say, oh, you were on the keto diet, nah, you should never have gone on that diet. It's such a bad diet. But I mean, why discourage somebody? I'm telling you, sometimes it's just kind of going with the flow and being like water and trying to help people, and you genuinely understanding the level of awareness and intellect that they're in. If you were truly awake, you would actually understand where they're at. But you're not awake. You're in your ego. Most of the time, people who try to help other people, they're doing it, but they're trying to indoctrinate them into their own philosophy. And that's no different than what Christians and these people who come in to fucking try to convert you in the churches do to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So it's like what is the difference? Sometimes, listen, you need Jesus then. See, here's the whole thing, man. There's a level of desensitizing that happens too, because I remember that the Christianity at first was powerful for me, right? But then it started to, I don't know, man. It was just something that within me, it wasn't resonating with me anymore. And it's more or less like, it's like a child when they believe in Santa Claus. After a while, you don't even have to tell them that Santa Claus doesn't exist. They're going to kind of get the idea that shit is fake, right? I was told at a late age that it didn't exist. I believed in Santa Claus till a very late age, to the point that like the kids in school were laughing at me. And I kind of got mad that my parents didn't tell me anything. But those are small little traumas that you don't even pay attention to. Those little traumas actually matter, because that's actually, a white lie is still a lie. It's still a lie. So my parents lied to me about the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, about Santa Claus, about the Three Wise Kings on New Year's. I got lied to a lot by my parents, man. I'm fucking traumatized too, right? So that's why, for example, there's a level of telling a little white lie, all to maintain a childlike innocence, or is it just ignorance that you keep your people under? You know what I'm saying? Because the government are like your parents, and you rely on them. They give you little white lies, right? But you believe in it. That's the whole thing. Because you don't know that these things are not the way it is, just the way you see it at the moment, But I don't know where I was going with that. But I don't know where I was going with that. I was kind of, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't even thinking. It was just, but then I tried to fucking put thought into it, and it, boom, and it just fucking left. But it's okay, because it didn't really matter anyway, right? Here's how I want to close this video off. Sit with yourself often, right? Talk to yourself, but talk to yourself in a sense where you're like a business operator and you manage a company with different departments, right? Like we can, you look at the main departments, like your energy centers, right? Your throat chakra, heart chakra, your solar plexus, your sacral, your root chakra. So you look at those as your main departments, and then you got all these organs that which these chakras are co-governed by, right? So now you start to look at these organs, right? The cells in these organs, for example, are like your workers. They're like your people. The body, the energy. I don't believe you ever run out of energy. You just basically, there's energy everywhere. You get what I'm saying? You just channel this energy and you can utilize these energies, ideas. People say, oh, you don't have any ideas, man? You don't have any creative ideas? See, that's the whole thing, but that's going to require some type of charge, some type of energy. This is why people say, no fapping and whatnot is like, it raises your kundalini and energy and whatnot, but these things are just, it's energy. You get what I'm saying? What you're paying attention to, the things that you invest your energy in, as far as like, mundane, stupid arguments, or your work, getting stressed out, all these things drain this energy, right? So you, and you start to put your mind into things that is not designed to be used for, like, let's say if you got things that stressed you out at work, you go home and you keep thinking about that, you go to bed and you think about that. That's kind of like what stays on your mind, to the point that you even dream like you're still working. Things like that have happened to me, but, if you start to talk to yourself, right, and start to, literally disconnect from this reality and just focus on yourself, you start to see the real non-duality in a way, where you start to get a glimpse of that really all this out here is already all happening within you. There's certain departments that you're dwelling in. Are you in your heart space? I may be more in my heart space when I'm like gardening, because I lose myself, but I'm also in such a loving, harmonious space that it's not the love that you would categorize that you see in movies or anything like that. It's it's like a building type of energy. Things like, they grow, right? They grow. Things that are growing, they're growing with harmony, Harmony. You have hormones in your body. Your main system, your endocrine system, is your endocrine system firing properly? Why do you think in the spring a man's hormone levels go up? Like your testosterone goes up in the spring. This is scientifically proven, right? And this happens because this is your endocrine system, is harmony, hormones, right? So the harmony, these things are starting to grow in the spring based on a harmonious energy, right? The chemistry, the climate, the temperature, everything is working in perfect harmony. So it's starting to grow, but then you have the reset. Winters come, depending on the area that you're in, there's a lot. It may look like death, right? But there's a lot of good that comes from that. That reset, you get rid of a lot of the parasites in the garden, a lot of the infestation. Let's say if you got mildew or fungus or things like that in your garden, they can go away. You know what I'm saying? So things like that actually, like for example, like I have blackberries. Some of them had little worms in them. Right, and I didn't even realize it, but it's okay because I ate them anyway. But when you freeze whatever it is you freeze, you could keep it frozen for like, let's say 14 days. Nothing lives in that condition for that long. For 14 days, whatever is in there that may hurt you is gonna never hurt you, because it's frozen, right? But the chemistry's still intact. So when we start to talk about bioavailable energy or nutrients or whatever it may be, it's there. And if you did happen to eat a worm alive, you're eating life force energy. So even the protein or the nutritional value is going to be intact for you to be able to properly absorb nutrients like that. It's not like, an imbalanced chemistry, which we call death, But it's not even imbalance. I don't want to say imbalance is death, but it's not, there's nothing to it. It's just basically something that the body is not utilizing for nutrition, like cooked foods for whatnot. There is nutritional value to cooked foods. I'll get into another video on that if I have to explain that part, because like, again, there's a time and place for everything. Cooked foods, raw foods, whatever, whatever it is that wherever you're at, and as far as your state, maybe you do need to eat according to that climate or according to wherever you're at, because that's just where the energy. I'll make another video on that, because this is where ideas come in too. We'll talk soon.